Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we're doing a special edition of the Spotlight on the Community Show. We are here at the San Diego County Sheriff's headquarters. We are chatting with Commander Rick Lopez, Law Enforcement Services Bureau Support Operations. How you doing, Rick?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're honored to have you. Our Spotlight Show is brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. For 6 decades, been doing just great things in San Diego County, from food insecurity to literacy to arts and everything in between. So how long have you been working with the Sheriff's Department?
29 years.
29 years.
Yeah.
And you started when and where?
So I actually started with the probation department back in the beginning of 1995, and I worked there for about 8 months, and they were going to close down that camp that I was working at out by Lake Henshaw. So I received a call basically from the Sheriff's Department saying they were offering me a position, or at least not a position, waiving the written test if I wanted to start the process with the department. So here I am. It's the best decision I've ever made.
Right. We were talking, that you had worked with some colleagues of mine a zillion years ago. Sheriff Bill Collender. Bill had been moved over, among other things, had worked with the San Diego Union Tribune in corporate office, and, of course, Sheriff Gore, who had retired and so forth. 2 great guys.
Oh, yes. I started, and Sheriff Collender was here, and I remember him coming into at our graduation and talking to us and saying, I'm the sheriff, you are my deputies. I obviously can't be everywhere, so make sure that you take your training and, do a good job out there because you are representing the sheriff.
Yeah, and he was a great representation, as was Bill as well. You have a million things that you oversee in your job, literally. SWAT, Aerial Unit, Canine Unit, Search and Rescue, my God, emergency planning. How many folks work with you?
Hundreds. I can't. So we also have volunteer services, which has all our search and rescue, which that in itself is about, I think, 400 total between our volunteer services patrol, our volunteer sheriff's patrol, and our search and rescue, our reserves. It's just a lot. The community of San Diego really comes out to help out others in need. Our search and rescue program is phenomenal. The amount of training and amount of time that everybody puts into that is just, it's something to be seen.
And does Astria fall under you?
It do, yes.
Right. We just chatted with Ian Campbell, did a great interview earlier. No surprise to you and all that. Have you ever wanted to be part of Astria?
No, I'm a little bit afraid of flying, and I have a little bit of problem with motion sickness. So I did, as a detective, do some rides up with Astria, take some photos of places and things like that. And, I had about a half-hour limit, and that was it.
I think you're taking me down right now.
Yeah.
I know we want to talk about your youth empowerment program, Rise Above, in a few seconds here. But, boy, talk about SWAT. And, people hear about that a lot. What's that unit do, and how many folks are in that unit?
So we have 14 full-time deputies, and then we have a large amount of special response, secondary response personnel that go through the academy, a very difficult academy that I could never do it. Even in my younger days, what they do to get by that is unbelievable. But this is a dedicated group of specially trained deputies that go out to the worst of the worst calls. And I always say that you always think of SWAT as being very, action-packed, and that's true to a sense. But for the most part, by the time they get there, their whole role is to de-escalate the situation for them to come out. So there is a lot of talking, there's a lot of waiting, there's a lot of that leading up to the moment where they have to take some action. But they are probably the best at de-escalation although the term SWAT kind of you would think that would mean the opposite, but they're actually very, very good at de-escalation, because that's the whole goal, is just resolve the situation and get everyone out.
Right, and not just with SWAT, with the deputies on the ground, everyone. That's our whole focus, is how do we, calm things down, I imagine. And then if you don't, sometimes you can't calm things down, you got to take action on it. Do you work with other SWAT units in different agencies like the police department and other folks?
Yeah, our SWAT team has been around for a very long time, and we work regionally very well here in San Diego. We're very fortunate that all of the law enforcement agencies work very well, especially our SWAT units. They know each other very well. They train often, and as being essentially responsible for the county, we do a lot of training with and we back each other up. And not only is our SWAT team handle our incidents, but in times, if it's an extended period of time, we will call other teams that come in and basically relieve and help us out.
All right, talk about your Canine Unit.
Our Canine Unit is fantastic. That's the one regret that I have, is that I never tried to be a canine handler. But the amount of time and the dedication that they have to our, their partners, their canine partners, is unbelievable. They spend so much time. I mean, it's a 24-hour day job,
right.
7 days a week. They don't ever get a break. Their partners are. They see them during the work day, and then they see them when they go home. There's really no break for them. But the love that these dogs have for their deputies and their handlers, and vice versa, and the amount of training that they do, it's just really something special to see.
Yeah, how many people are part of the Canine Unit?
I'm not too sure of the number that we have now, but we have increased our staff because we have not only patrol, but we have detention. Narcotic handlers and canines that are specific to that. And then we also just added our explosive detection canine, which is something that Sheriff Martinez wanted to implement. They were around before I was even on the department. And then for some reason, the program kind of just went away, and then we have brought it back. And already they're extremely useful. Right,
exactly. Again, we're chatting with Commander Rick Lopez, Law Enforcement Services Bureau Support Operations. He's got SWAT, Aerial Unit, Canine Unit, Search and Rescue, volunteers, licensing, property evidence, and is there a job you don't do? My goodness, that is phenomenal. Talk a little bit about Rise Above.
Yeah, so for about half of my career, I worked in gang investigations. So I started my patrol career up in San Marcos. And from there, I worked as a detective, working in the city of San Marcos and local street gangs up there, and then went on to an FBI federal gang task force, and spent about 13 years total up there in North County. And during that time, I focused all on gang investigations, and really got to see the negative influences that gang has, and lifelong effects on not only the persons that are involved in gangs, but obviously victims of gang violence, and also the families that are affected by that. So this is something that's I've been very passionate about for a very long time. Sheriff Martinez wanted us to start up a program for like a youth empowerment program, like a anti-gang program, and a gang prevention program, so to speak, because we really don't have one in department-wide, office-wide. We had some programs that were up in Vista for a while. It kind of went away. And so now we tasked our community oriented policing in Vista and San Marcos, our deputies, to essentially come up with a program. That's one great thing that I love about Sheriff Martinez and our office, is that there is no bad idea in terms of if someone has a good idea, come up with it, plan it out, present it, and let's see if it's going to work. And we basically gave a general outline to the deputies and the lieutenants up there and said, this is kind of what we're thinking about. Do some research, reach out to community partners, talk to some of the personnel that are already dealing with youth, our deputies with a Respect program, some of our school resource officers, and see what you can come up with. And see if we can implement it by the beginning of the school year, because we believe that
this school year?
Yes.
Wow.
So they did. Within a couple of months,
wow.
They did all that research and then put together a curriculum. And it's an 8-week program, free, no cost. We are now in the third week. We just started it, and it's been fantastic. We didn't really know how much we were going to have people involved, especially since it was the summer and we didn't have really that connection with the school district just yet, and kids were and just getting the word out really was going to be a difficult time, and we really wanted to start at the beginning of the school year and do a fall session, and the response was overwhelming. We had to stop. We had to cap it off at 35 kids.
Wow.
And part of this program is that the parents are involved as well. I think that's one of the biggest, the most important things that we have to do. In my tenure as a gang detective and doing gang investigations, having the parents understand and educate them on the dangers of gangs and some of the signs that, your kids might be involved in gangs, and preventing that from even starting is the most important thing, because really once you start getting involved in that gang culture, it's very difficult to get them out.
Yeah, there's no question about that. So the 35 kids are they all high school?
No, they're between the ages of 9 and 12.
So 9 and 12, and then do they get together at a certain area once a week, once a month?
Once a week for an hour and a half in San Marcos. They partner with the Boys and Girls Club, so they're holding it there. In Vista, it's over at the Linda Road Center, a recreation center in Vista. And for the first week, we had the parents come out. We have a great partnership with Dr. Beatrice Villarreal. She's with the Mano Mano Foundation. And for many, many years in North County, she has a simple goal of just empowering our youth to make better decisions and warn the parents about the dangers of narcotics and gangs and just any negative influence that they might have. So she was great. She talked to the parents and the kids. It's very important that the kids. It's not a program to where we want these kids to be, involved in law enforcement. That's not the goal. The goal is to give them some tools to be able to make better choices. And so that's what the program for the 8 weeks is all designed. It's about 10, 15 minutes of some instruction, and the rest of the time just having fun with the deputies, getting some of that energy out. It is after school, and so we've been fortunate enough to have some donations by some of the local eateries around there to be able to provide some dinner, because we understand they're coming straight from school. Parents are really busy. They're getting their kids together and then trying to make this program. So try to help them out a little bit by giving them some food while they're there.
So you chose 9 through 12, obviously for a reason. This is where they start to be looking at gangs and where they're most influenced, I take it?
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to start at a young age to, first of all, educate them on what they might be. Not only, the kids are smart. Right. They already know some of things, but those that don't, we want to get them ready for those middle school years where they're going to get a lot of influences.
Right. And I imagine you got great cooperation from the different school districts. We work pretty closely in one of the organizations, in Classroom of the Future with Vista. Matt Doyle's the superintendent there, and of course Andy Johnson's superintendent at San Marcos. You work closely with those districts? They helped us out with some of the outreach, which is probably the most important part.
Right. But both cities, the city of San Marcos and the city of Vista, helped us out a lot with some of the resources that we need. But really, we wanted to make this really community based. So we are partnered up with the Vista Community Clinic. True Care, the Boys and Girls Club, Star Pal has provided us with some help with the curriculum.
Star Pal's great. Right.
And so that's really the focus, is to use the resources that are already in the community and for the parents and the kids to understand that these resources are there, they're local, and they're willing to help. So this is hopefully an introduction to something to which they'll be able to use.
Right. So it's 35 kids. They do once a week. 8-week program, you're saying?
8-week program.
And then, so once you're due with 8, are you going to start with a new group, new cohort of 35?
Yeah, we're hoping to do a spring and a fall program. So we're starting in North County,
right,
kind of seeing how that's going to go this first time around. And we really want to expand it. We want to go down to South Bay. We want to expand it throughout the entire county to all of our stations for them to have the opportunity. And the deputy, I can't speak more highly about how great of a work the deputies and the lieutenants up there did in putting this program together. Our crime prevention specialist, in particular, she was fantastic out of San Marcos, organizing and getting all these resources together as well. So it's really been a partnership between the sheriff's office and all the community resources in the cities in both those areas.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
We're chatting with Commander Rick Lopez. He's Law Enforcement Services Bureau Support Operations for the San Diego County Sheriffs. We are doing a special edition of Spotlight on the Community show. I'm Drew Schlosberg, the host of Spotlight on the Community. We're doing it at the headquarters of the Sheriffs. We are brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. For 6 decades, they've been doing great things in San Diego County. Let me ask you this. You've been involved with youth for a long time. Obviously, you have a passion with this an aspect of it. Were you exposed to gangs when you were young yourself?
I was not. I grew up in the South Bay. I'm a first generation here in the United States. My parents are from Mexico, and growing down in the South Bay, there was that influence, but my parents really kept me out of it. So I wasn't involved in that. I didn't live in the best of neighborhoods. Yeah. And so when I started working patrol up in San Marcos, and there's a community there that when I started working patrol that was really being affected by gang violence and the gang culture. And, it was that one particular area, and it was the Hispanic community, and I spoke Spanish. Back then, there were not a lot of deputies who spoke Spanish in that area, especially during my patrol time. And so I often found myself as being the translator. And so just using that and the connection between, having the Hispanic culture and understanding some of that, I really connected with that community and was able to, do my best to kind of stray people away from gang involvement. But it really started when I started working gang investigations, and I really saw how the gangs in North County, really all over, just that influence of that gang culture had on our youth, and the parents. And, some situations, families had to move, out of the area because it got so bad. Right.
Now, is gang activity, whether it's in terms of numbers or crimes and all that business, is it going down? Is it staying the same? Is it going up? Or just really depends on what part of the county you're in?
It really depends on what part of the county it is, but it has gone down considerably from what it was. I think it'll always be there. That gang subculture, I think, will always exist. But it is definitely a lot less than what it used to be. Right now, especially social media, the influence of social media and the fact that some of the things which back in my days we would be able to see out on the street, now it's being performed on social media, threats and things like that, instead of it being out on the streets, maybe in some tagging that we used to see, now it's on social media. So being able. That's why this program, Rise Above, is so important. And that's one part of it is we talk to the kids about social media, how to deal with it, how to deal with some of that stuff that they are going to be dealing with. They probably already are, and some of the things that they see and they recognize.
Right. Are you working with some former gang members that now say, hey, I need to work with the sheriffs or other law enforcement on this?
We have had some that have come forward, and I had worked with some in the past. That is not part of the program right now, but it's definitely not anything that we're going to exclude. Since this is the first time that we're doing this program, we're just kind of trying to fill it out and see how the kids are going, how much this is going to work.
Well, I think it's going to work great.
Yeah.
One, your experience, you know how to do this stuff, and you're passionate about it, and getting the parents involved is so critical in this area. And we know when you get them young, that's the best place, to get those folks. I want to go back to some of the other things that you are in charge of. Emergency planning. Okay, what is that all about?
So emergency planning, since we are the mutual aid coordinator for the entire county, we have the responsibility to assist any other agency that asks for that. And so our emergency planning division dedicates itself to being prepared for any natural disasters, for any protests that might get out of hand, and for any mutual aid that any of our partners ask for. So that's what they focus on, and so they train with other agencies and ourselves with our mobile field force units and things like that, just in preparation for anything.
Right. So when you were fire, we talked to Ian Campbell, your colleague in Astrea, that I guess two of the units out there work with some fire aspects of it as well. Does the emergency planning get involved with that?
Yeah, so that's one of probably the largest component of their job is dealing with fire preparedness. For those of us that have been in San Diego County back in the horrible fires.
0307.
Yeah, it was. We don't ever want to go through that again, but we can't deny that is a possibility. So we have to get prepared for it. That's why our ASTRA program, our partnership with CAL FIRE, and the helicopters that we currently have, and we have just purchased a new helicopter, a twin-engine helicopter, and we have the only program that we partner with CAL FIRE. We have a fire captain who sits as a co-pilot,
right?
Not a co-pilot, just in the same and coordinating with the ground units on this. And we're responsible for the first aerial attack really on any fire. I think people would be surprised when you ask them, and we post this on our public website, how many fires we have responded. And usually when I go to community meetings, I ask them, like, how many fires do you think we've had in San Diego County? And usually I get a dozen, 20. And when they hear, no, it's more in the hundreds, 200, 250. And the reason that you don't hear about it is because ASTRA is out there putting out the fire immediately. So thank God that it doesn't get to the level of where, there's some news coverage, because we put it out pretty quickly.
Well, and I think, as Ian was saying before, and this is one of the largest sheriff departments in the country, just because of the number of folks that are employed in it, of course, but the wide swath of square mileage you have is just huge, is it not?
Oh yeah, it's humongous. The job that the Astro pilots do is just amazing. The danger that goes into that. It looks so easy from the ground, kind of exciting to see these planes go, like we just had the air show, and you see these planes doing all these crazy maneuvers, and you're like, oh, that looks so much fun, but the amount of training that is required to do that, it's unbelievable, and the danger of fighting a fire during a fire. I mean, I think you've seen some of the videos, all the smoke that they can't even see when they're trying to do a water drop, Even we have some tankers in the county, and I don't know if Ian talked about that, where they can activate from a button and fill up the tank and then go down and pick up the water. But just that act alone, when you see it in person, it's not easy. It looks very cool and it looks like something, but I don't think a lot of people can do it. It takes a lot of training to do that.
No, and he was explaining that too. Something that's near and dear to my heart is communications, and Communications Center falls under you, right?
Yes.
That is going to be a massive job itself.
It is, our emergency services dispatchers, are really the unsung heroes of this county, for the amount, thousands of calls that they receive every day, and, quickly assessing and sending it off to units or medical aid or whatever it is, the amount of calls that they get is just immense. And the amount of training that they have to do to get that, it's not an easy job, but it's a very rewarding job for them, because they truly are helping a lot of people. When people call, we don't get the good calls. It's never a good call when someone calls us. It's always they need some help, and that's really the focus of our job. Is people are calling us for help, so we need to figure that out.
Yeah. So one of the things I was going to ask you, we all know that when there's incidents, whether it's fire or it's a SWAT incident or God knows what's going on, a riot or something, obviously communication center is just so critical in all the communications, obviously, you got to stay on top of your game when it comes to cyber attacks, correct? And shutting down your communications, right? You must keep an eye on that all the time.
Oh, yes. We have a very robust data services division, very top of the line. I think I heard I think Sheriff Martinez had talked about our technology unit and how that division in itself keeps us very safe with all of the cyber attacks that are occurring. And obviously, we're always aware of things that are happening and getting ready for them.
Yeah. So I think we asked this question Captain Claudia, who was on our show.
Yes.
How much have you heard that interview? She did a great job.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Exactly. So you're first generation. How proud is your family of what you've accomplished?
Very proud. Yeah.
It brought tears to her eyes on it, and of course, really, kudos to all the service that you have done. We ask this question of everybody on our show, and especially here at the Sheriff's Department: what can our listeners do, or the citizens do, to make your jobs easier, better, or more fruitful, so to speak?
Just support, your local sheriff's office. We have stations throughout the entire county. Your deputies are working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They're always out there responding, whether it's something bad, something good, something in between. They're always out there doing the job, and it doesn't matter when it is. It doesn't matter if it's during the holidays. It doesn't matter the weather. They're always out there. So just having support for them for what they do, and for all the personnel. I think this office has so many different job classifications, and I know that everyone sees the uniform out on the street, but it takes thousands of people to make this run. 4,700 personnel that work for our department. Our professional staff is just amazing. I think Sheriff Martinez had talked about our medical staff inside of the jail. We essentially run the largest mental in the county. And all of those resources that we have, it takes everybody to run this entire office. And our sole purpose is to help out our community.
Well, you guys do a great job. And Rick, best of wishes for continued success with the Rise Above. And thank you for your 29 years of great service and more that's going to come in this. What we'd love to do is after maybe the first Rise Above class is done, after it's done, it's 8 weeks, something you can make a decision on. We'd love to have you come back on our show and maybe bring in a parent who had went through this program and share how that worked with their child. How's that sound?
Yeah, we would love to do that.
We'll consider that a done deal. Commander Rick Lopez, an absolute joy. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, brought to you by Cloudcast Media. We are sponsored by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, been doing great things for people living in San Diego County. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.